Hello, it's the final episodes of Community of Independence Season 3.
Oh, fucking hell.
But we're gonna have a big party!
Hey!
Want some? No future. Coming up on tonight's show, we have music and chat from Sunken Fall. We'll be talking to Kieran and Sam from Come Here To Me. Eva Barry reports on Lethal Dialect. And we'll also have a Sean Zizou practice space video. But to kick things off, this is La La Land by No Monster Club.
Remember the time. Someone tell me why I never thought of this before. True and lie, and fight the design. Someone tell me why I never thought of this before. Green light, way up on cloud nine. Someone tell me why I never thought of this before. We own tribes, and you're a member of mine. Someone tell me why I never thought of this. The lines are open, lines are open, lines are open, lines are open for you. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Rewind. Where was my mind? Someone tell me why I never thought of this before. Someone might listen sometimes. Someone tell me why I never thought of this before. These rhymes, so easy to write. Someone tell me why I never thought of this before. So get alive, I'm not fucking blind. Someone tell me why I never thought of this. The lines are open, lines are open, lines are open, lines are open for you. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. I'm gonna get into a fight. The doctors say I need some rain. What I like to do is to run. But singing this song is such fun. And everyone know, everyone know, everyone know. I'm not having seen this shit. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la. Here I go again. I think I'm in la 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 la.
There you go. That was directed by Jed Murray and produced by David Lester Mooney. The video for La La Land by the rambunctious Dublin trio No Monster Club. But hey, look where I am. I'm sitting in the studio with Kieran and Sam.
Hello.
Yes, now that I've made us all feel like we're 4 years old, tell us about Come Here To Me and how it began.
Well, Come Here To Me is a group blog. We started about 3 years ago. Met for a couple of pints in the Foggy Geo, I think it was. Just started talking about like what we love about Dublin. Myself from Mullingar, being a bit of a blow-in, and Sam and Donald, who are true blue dubs, said might as well like start writing about something. So what do we write about? Social and political kind of history of Dublin, bit of football thrown in as well. It's three subjects we all love, and kind of starting writing about it seemed like the logical idea.
It was an interesting time as well, I thought, because of 2009 and recession was kicking in, so we saw a lot of our friends leave for Australia and for London and everywhere else in the world, and kind of made us kind of reevaluate our kind of feeling on the city itself, and we kind of wanted to kind of pick out the really nice things about Dublin and keep in touch with those friends who went away, because a lot of them read the blog, and they also find people who even left in the 80s who are kind of got in touch with us through the blog.
Yeah.
And they like finding out what's going on in their home city and things, so
and
it was good timing for us, I think, that time period.
And how do you go about sourcing the content for the site?
It can be literally anything. You hear a story in the pub and then you Google it. It can be some of your family members telling you some story, but usually we kind of have something in our heads and we go through usually the roots of the Irish Times archive or the various other newspaper archives, the local library. Obviously Google now is Google and all blogs and even things like scanners now when people are home means that they can do things themselves, lash it up, and you can get in contact with them very easily through email and even things like Dropbox now, Facebook. So all this kind of social media, Web 2.0, made it a lot easier for historians, especially kind of social historians using social media, bit of a link there. So kind of we use various different methods, but yeah, they'd be kind of the main ones.
And recently enough, you brought out this book, Come Here to Me, and it's already sold out of print.
Yeah, we sold out pretty much straight away. Like we brought out about 2,000 copies, I think it was. Like went to the market. And they sold out before Christmas, pretty much, which was quite amazing for us. We were like having these great fears of spending the next 2 years with boxes of books under our beds.
Yeah.
But thankfully it didn't happen that way. We had a fantastic launch in Bia Bar, and there's about 250 people there. An absolute stomper of a night. Like Dermot Ferreter, pretty eminent Dublin historian, launched it for us. It was fantastic night, like one of the best nights I've had in Dublin in a long time.
We got a couple of different historians actually to DJ after, which was a fantastic little kind of
Quirky
side thing as well, yeah, a bit quirky.
Okay.
That
And
worked
what's the plans for 2013? You're going to do another run
Well,
of the
we're
book?
going to keep on with the blog. Like our hits are growing, as you can imagine. Our Facebook page now is, I think, hitting towards 4,000 likes, and there's definitely a plan for a sequel. Maybe not this year, but definitely the year after.
Okay, we're going to be talking to the lads in a couple of minutes' time, but right now we're going to have a look at Lethal Dialect. Aoife Barry met one of Dublin's finest rappers this week. He was the final act from the Community of Independence Season 3 launch extravaganza. Take a look.
So I knew that I had to find a producer that was on the same brainwave as I was with the writing side of things. And it was funny when I met GI, you know, he was asking me to spit a few verses for him. So I spit a few verses for him, and at the same time, he's showing me beats. And I was thinking to myself, like, hold on a second, these beats are serious, like, am I gonna be able to do this justice? And he's listening to the verses saying, hold on a second, these verses are slick, am I gonna be able to do justice with these beats? And we didn't really say anything. I never said to him that night, I said, yeah, definitely. And he never said to me, yeah, definitely. So for a while it was like, you know, oh, is he cool with doing this? And then eventually it was like, you know, it just fell into place. But
rapping since his teens, Lethal Dialect has released 2 albums, LD51 and LD52, and is currently working on his 3rd record. Working with collaborators like G.I., Costello and Willa, he's explored the darker side of Irish rap and hip-hop, but is looking to change direction with his forthcoming release.
I wouldn't say the polar opposite of the last album, but the last album was very dark and it was kind of underground and hardcore, and this one is just, it's uplifting, it's a lot more accessible, and you know, there's more of a bang, you'll know when you hear it, but it's not necessarily a nostalgic album. I think it's more personal. You know, I think the last album I did and the first album I did was a concept album, LD50 Part 1. The second album I did was kind of dealing with different issues and, you know, not necessarily concept based, but I definitely was talking about a couple of things, whereas this one I'm just enjoying myself. And, you know, I'm writing about things I write about, sort of some tongue-in-cheek bars in there, but the content is still there, you know. The beats are switched up, the beats are different, a lot more modern. I just felt like I wanted to go in the direction that Jack Knight was, you know, he'd already done an album, you know, with Jambo, and I heard the beats. And I just thought, you know, it was more forward thinking than anything I'd heard, not to take away from anybody else, but, you know, it was more forward thinking, whereas what I was doing before was sort of paying homage to the golden era of hip hop, which is what I love doing, and, you know, that's what I love, but at the same time I wanted to do something different as well, you know, not always be stuck in that kind of category. And I just felt that Jack Knight was the one to do it, you know, he was the perfect man for it, so it's just a case of trying different things, you know what I mean? I had to try different things. I couldn't make, as I said in a different interview before, I couldn't make the same album twice, you know, so that's going to be coming out in the summer anyway.
He spoke to Community of Independence about the importance of taking your time to release music and why he scrapped new songs and started over.
I won't dwell on it too much because it doesn't make any sense talking about an album that I'm not going to do, you know, but what it was just that process that I was talking about of just getting beats sent over, writing verses over them, recording it, and then that's the track done. I mean, that's why I got the second album done in a matter of months, because there wasn't really any process. It was just writing and recording, and that's the track done. Whereas with this one, like I said, I'm really participating in the production of it, you know, in the sense that I'm overlooking it and giving it ideas and things like that, you know. Beans is just, he's a wizard on the board. He knows what he's doing anyway, but he's looking for my opinion to see what I'm comfortable over, and so I'm participating in that sense, and then I'm writing hooks and I'm writing breaks into tracks, and it's a lot more musical. The album is more musical as opposed to a hip-hop album. You know, I think the last one was kind of categorised in a certain box. I don't think this one will be, you know. I think people will appreciate it even if they don't necessarily like hip-hop. So, you know, when we had a couple of tracks done for the last album, the Magnum Opus one, it was just like, nah, I'm not doing this again. It's going to be a waste of 12 months because I think we didn't really expect the last album to kind of get the acclaim it did because it was so underground. So now that we did, I was of the opinion, well, why not try capitalise on that, you know? Instead of making the same album again, why not try build off that, do something really different and see what happens then, you know? I mean, when I started out, there wasn't many people doing it. First and foremost, when I started out, you could probably name on one hand everybody who was doing it. So now we'll go to every single area in Dublin and there's somebody coming up to me with a 16-bar verse, which is a great thing, but you know, I'd say to a lot of them, trying to school them and telling them that, you know, a lot of them are rushing it. You know, just because you have an internet connection and access to a microphone or whatever doesn't make you a rapper. You have to really work on it, because if they don't, they're gonna put out an album that's just another throwaway album, you know. And I try and encourage them, I'll be saying to them, to all the up-and-coming hip-hoppers out there at the minute, there is a lot of them, just take your time with it, you know, because at the end of the day, you can only ever make a first impression once, so you have to try and do it the way it should be done then, you know. I think it's their ego, but, you know, that won't do them any favours either when they look back in 2 or 3 years if they're still at it and saying, maybe I should have took a bit more time in that first release, so that's my advice for them anyway. So that was definitely something I was conscious of. And, I mean, it's hard. I knew when there was other rappers out there sort of getting credit for what they were doing, and I hadn't put out anything at this stage, and I knew what I had there is better than what they were doing, but at the same time it wasn't as good as I knew it could have been. So you have to not really focus on what everybody else is doing and just focus on you and your own skill, and you'll know when it's ready. You'll know yourself when it's ready to go, you know.
But where did it all begin for Lethal Dialect? He talked us through some of his influences and told us why one Irish rapper in particular was so important to him.
I mean, it started off with hip-hop from abroad, first and foremost, from the States, the greats, the likes of Nas and things like that, you know. And then domestically, it was Lunatic, who I really heard that was sort of doing it the way it should be done. So when I heard him doing it, I knew it was something I wanted to do then. So it was more relatable, you know. And he also made the Dublin accent sound slick, and he's using their slang and making that sound slick. And you know, before that, I never really thought the Dublin accent could kind of work with hip hop. I'd never really heard it before, you know, for me to say. And when I heard Lunatic doing his thing, then it was just, yeah, this Dublin is supposed, like, has an accent that's supposed to be doing this, you know, that type of way. So once I heard that, then that was it. I was hooked on it.
The circle's complete and tight. Me and G.I. Costello, Jambo for real, the boys. Shouts the Beans and Will Ali, and of course Lunatic, rest in peace. We're ready for the freedom fight.
Lethal Dialect, going to see a performance from him recorded live in the Button Factory in a few minutes' time, but I am still here with Kieran and Sam from Come Here To Me, and I want to ask you about independent music from decades gone by. Starting off with punk in Dublin, what impact did punk music have on Dublin?
Well, like, punk was huge, as it was all over England, but especially Dublin, there was a massive impact on both the music scene but also the social scene. Of people writing about punk kind of usually focus on the kind of main bands like U2, maybe the Virgin Prunes, and if you're lucky, maybe the Red Earth in Space. Yeah. But there's a whole swathe, I mean, dozens of bands who were up there at the time, but looking back now, they don't really get the same recognition. Bands like Theatrics and Revolver, DC9, I could go on and on. So what we've been looking at in the blog is looking at those bands specifically, because they've, I wouldn't say written out of history, but there's no focus on them anymore. So quite practically what we've been doing was digitizing their records and putting them onto YouTube, and then finally doing some interviews with either band members or people who were at the gigs and things. So trying to do a nice kind of package of both audio, pictures, visual, and then writing itself.
At that era, at that time, were bands playing punk music, were they kind of seen as outcasts, or did more venues open up to them and did more of a kind of DIY spirit begin in Dublin?
I think initially it was terrible. It was very difficult to get anywhere to play. Like I know the Clash, for example, their first gig was in the Exam Hall in Trinity,
Right.
which kind of shows, you know they couldn't play. The Jam played in the Top Hat out in Dunleary. So there was no real venues, I don't think, for punk initially. Talking about 76, 77, 78, but then you had great venues like Dandelion Market coming around about 79, places like McGonagall's. You had hotels that started having gigs, like Moran's Hotel, where the Boomtown Rats started off playing some of their initial gigs.
Yeah, and released a couple of live B-sides as well
Yeah.
from Moran's.
Yeah.
Weird footage to
Yeah.
have. But what about Mod Revival? That was also something that kind of came from that era, an offshoot of punk and a kind of cleaner look, but again, something that had quite a strange impact on Dublin.
Yeah, like I don't think it came out from punk, but it came around the same time. I think that fantastic movie Quadrophenia, which came out in 1979, totally exploded the whole kind of Mod Revival. You had a whole new generation of kids getting involved, and their base in Dublin was a place called Bubbles, which was down Temple Bar just off Fleet Street. That ran a weekly Mod Revival night from 1981 to 1987, and that was basically the hub. And it was different to punk in that it was a revival. It was people who were dressing and in many ways listening to the same music as people were in the 60s. So I don't think it had the same kind of impact on the social scene or the music scene, but it's still a very big part of, a very large swathe of people in Dublin, especially young people.
Yeah. What about Stop Making Sense? For some reason, the Talking Heads film has a particular cult status amongst Dubliners. How did that begin?
Well, it came out in 1984, and it was shown first in the Bastard Cinema in 1985. I think there's a couple of dates. And then I don't know what happened in the meantime, but it came back in 1986. And for 20 weekends in a row, it was played on the Friday and Saturday night. As far as I remember now, Friday, Saturday night for 20 weeks in a row in 1986. And this became like the place to go every weekend. Totally. And people would go to the pub and then go straight to Stop Making Sense. And people like Graham Linehan, Dave Fanning have all talked about how significant this was. How significant this was on the kind of social landscape at the time, because it was middle of 1980s Dublin. It was a bit
depressing
grim.
times, of
so
course.
Somewhere to go where you can sit down. Most people stood up and danced and watched this fantastic movie. Was actually such a great place, and I know they're showing it in a couple of weeks' time in King 7.
Yeah.
So there's a tradition there.
The cult continues. The cult continues.
Hopefully.
Has independent music been well documented through the decades? I mean, I know Hot Press started in the late 1970s, but other than that, was there many outlets or publications covering what was going on in Dublin?
Well, there's the whole zine culture, which is still going strong as far as I know, which there's a fantastic library of all the old zines in Show Esprit at the moment. Okay. So there has been a kind of a DIY culture of writing about things at the time, but looking back, I don't think so. I don't think there's been much written looking back at the music scene. I think it's more people writing about the time, and then people growing old and then kind of forgetting about it. So that's why I think maybe our generation actually have that time now to kind of go back, collate them all, and kind of write a proper history of the whole time period.
That's why it's great to have on the blog when say Sam has done a lot of the research into music and different scenes. You have a lot of people from those scenes putting up comments underneath the articles. So that's where we get we've got full pages of the book just dedicated to comments that people have said. Especially in the Stop Making Sense thing, people. They're saying that they went on after a couple of beers and ended up running laps around the Ambassador, having human pyramids in the middle of the cinema, and it's just absolutely bizarre that there's nothing written about this really. Yeah. Since then, maybe the Hot Press was covering some of it, but there's so many stories out there.
The unfortunate thing is, not unfortunate, but it's hard for people maybe who maybe in their 40s and 50s to see that as history. They kind of see it as they're growing up. So we kind of have to remind people that it's good to get those stories recorded now and get them all collated, because in 10 or 15 years people are going to, start forgetting, or they're going to start, unfortunately dying. So I think this is the time now to get kind of stories from the 60s and 70s, because it's our best chance. Don't leave it too late, basically.
Brilliant. Well, look, we wish you the best of luck in all your endeavours with the blog.
Thank you.
Come here to me. Thanks very much, lads,
Thanks,
for coming
cheers.
into the show.
Cheers.
Okay, now we're going to enjoy some hip hop, courtesy of Lethal Dialect, featuring Will Ali, DJ Scorpio and Costello. This is Lethal Dialect on Community of Independence. Enjoy.
Where's all the fucking J Dilla fans at? Where's all the J Dilla fans at, yeah? Throw your fucking hands up for this shit, come on! Dublin fucking city. Too raw, too bleak. It's the Dark Horse remix. You know this shit, sing along, yeah? Check it. Make that shit. Rest in peace, lunatic. Yes. Yeah. I can feel it in my bones. Waking up in cold sweats after dreaming of a sea, do you know? Bobby Sands reading me it. Stars of freedom with the loins sliced in his own flesh. He died in protest to those kneeling to the throne. Nowadays we're like Carl, how we're being processed. This whole war needs to start leaving me alone. I think too deep and I'm feeling so stressed. But it keeps me in the zone, no less. The export thinks I'm paranoid, that doesn't mean there's no threat. The boys know best, they don't speak to me on phones. Do the math, it's broadcast, frequencies and tones. I tons of smoke weed that keep me stoned, but the brain is a fucking powerhouse. It has its own depth, most deaf. Our eyes can only see what's being shown. If you're living a law, you're just going to slow death. I've been trying to hit the side form with a bang that's far more bigger than the ones that make stars for. That's why they label me the dark horse. That's when my style manifests so hardcore. Picture pinpricks penetrate the chest of a voodoo doll. With my picture on the dartboard. I've heard a quotable I got from someone living in a cardboard. Maybe that's when we have me. The true leaders, the true speakers, knowing the truth will offend who we may. But I've always been too eager to speak truth, and the truth is I've lost more friends than I've brave. But I'll remain friends, no doubt, with the friends that remain till I'm 2 meters deep. I feed off of minuscule creatures. That's not the end of my days, but more so the end of a phase. I've been truthful since trying to teach skilled teachers about the I used to take what they taught with a pinch of salt. 2 sleepers, ditching skill, thinking it was kill, like kill, riding in 2-wheelers. The rest put their pains to the page, depending on grade for the cause to extend accolades. What's the for at the end of the day? A fucking job with a rand of the slaves. I've been trying to hit the side form with a bang that's far more bigger than the ones that make stars form. That's why they label me the dark horse. That's when we start manifest so hardcore. Picture pinpricks penetrate the chest of a voodoo dog. And my picture on the dartboard. I've heard a quotable I got from someone living in some cardboard. Maybe that's when we have LD. Oh yeah. LD. Street lit. DJ. Scorpio, see, he's a drunk motherfuckers. That's how we do that shit.
That's how we do it, you know what I'm saying? That's how we do it.
Lethal Dialects, recorded live in the Button Factory. All of our performances from the Button Factory gig are now available online for your viewing pleasure. Going to start the gig guide now with a gig tomorrow night in the Twisted Pepper. €8 in to see Drunken Boat playing their final ever gig. Support at that one comes from the yacht rock enthusiast Enda Canavan and his band Cave Ghosts. That's in the Twisted Pepper on Friday night. Up in Whelan's on Friday night. Upstairs, it's €10 in to see High Wolf. High Wolf. There's a wolf jumping high. Support there from former COI guest Keane Nugent. I'll remember that. And as well as that, the proverbial Phil Daniels of synthesizers, Magic Pockets. After that gig, there's a late show with Elk playing that starts at midnight, and no doubt Magic Pockets, Rune O'Mara, will be down the front headbanging as he does. Saturday night in the Button Factory, €18 in to see the much-hyped Blog Buzz band, Daughter. There they are. Every pure man's wet dream. It's a band who sound like the XX, but without all the black clothes and cleft chins. So they're playing Button Factory, €18 in to see that one. Thank you very much. Support there from Farewell J. Orr. All right, Sunday night in the Workman's Club, €20 in to see the RAWK Radio Nova Revival Rock of Orange Goblin. Ah, there's Paul O'Connell. He's orange, a bit goblin-esque. But no, actually the real Orange Goblin are far more odious. Take a look. Yeah, like the braiding on that one. Very good. Free download for this week comes courtesy of Sunder Nix. That's the rather rubbish moniker of a very good producer, Liam Trapp. His new single, Brasserie, is available to download for free from sundernix.com. That's how you spell Sunder Nix. Okay, in a few moments' time, we're going to have Sunken Fall live in studio. But in the meantime, watch this.
Do you want to take the transit?
Yeah. Is that a take, was it?
recorded live in their practice space. That was Hashjoints and Dancing Shoes. I am joined by Tim and Duncan from Sunken Fall. Thank you very much for coming to the studio.
Thanks for having us.
Let me ask you about the visual side of things. Obviously, we're going to see a performance from you guys in a few minutes' time. So how did you guys first even meet, and how did you get involved with providing visuals for Duncan?
You came around my house.
Yeah, you came around your place. You were doing visuals for Decal about 10 years ago, doing some kind of...
I used to do this stuff with a kind of a hacked screensaver that barely worked.
And I thought it was great and said, will you come and do some stuff with my band, Ambulance, at the time. And so we've been working together for kind of 10 years, just doing different sorts of projects with music and visuals, kind of working in tandem, synced up together.
Yeah, and from then it's developed.
Yeah, we just keep adding and taking away and coming up with new ideas.
At this stage, it's completely custom software.
Yeah.
Which tries to, I suppose, keep the aesthetic of the stuff we used to do years ago, but it's much more solid now.
Yeah, I mean, the music's way more live as well. There's not really any backing tracks or any, like if I make a mistake, you hear it. You know, kind of way. For electronic stuff, there's usually backing tracks and quantizing, but there's none of that. So we're really trying to show a visceral connection between the visual and the audio, if you know what I mean.
I heard you say recently enough that playing live, you've learned to worry about it less, that people are less focused on your mistakes, and you can kind of relax and enjoy engaging with the audience a bit more.
I used to think that people really listened to everything that was happening, but then as a punter you notice you're turning around, you're talking to people, and you're there for kind of a social occasion as well as enjoying music, so it's more just to try and get into a bit more of a positive spirit about it, really, I suppose, and fool myself into liking it.
And let me ask you about Friday Night Syndrome. Came out in July, and the writing process was very much procrastination during the week and a flurry of creativity on Friday night.
Well, it's not so much procrastination, but it was like kind of building systems in the computer or doing loads of recording and then realising I hadn't really got any meat at the end of it, nothing to really get satisfied by. So then I kind of go, quick, get something done so you have something to show for at the end of the week. And I still do that. You know, you kind of, if you kind of Sunday evening, if you haven't finished a tune, it gets a bit annoying. So you have to kind of, you know, keep it going.
Of course. And Friday Night Syndrome Volume 2 is going to be coming out sometime soon. Do you want to tell us about that? Yeah,
Friday Syndrome Volume 2 will be out on countersunk.org in the next few months. I'm doing it all myself, so I'm kind of like, it's tough because it's I kind of make these generative posters to go along with, like artwork to go along with the music, so it's just trying to get them all published or whatever.
Of course. What do you think you learned from that experiment of releasing it with the music free and then just like that trying to get people to buy the artwork as it was?
Just people can be really supportive, which is great. Like I was quite overwhelmed with the amount of like good press and people just being nice about it. But I learned loads of technical things as well. I learned how to build a website and, you know, how to price sending parcels from the post office.
Sure. You know, all good life skills.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I just need to sort out carpentry and electronics, and then I'm sorted.
And what prompted you to start Countersunk?
I was just making all different types of music, and certain like labels were interested in certain types of music I was doing, but I was going off making lots of really heavily beat orientated music, really rhythmic stuff. And people weren't really into releasing it, so I was like, I think it's good, I'm going to release it, and did, and people responded well enough.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the track you're going to perform for us tonight.
A track called Chiselers, which I recorded with Carol Keogh, and it's like just pretty simple beat workout and some bass playing, but Carol came over, and usually myself and Carol work as the Natural History Museum as well, and I just had a bit of vocals and a bit of a line and played them to her, and she kind of helped me out a bit, and it was a really quick one that you kind of throw down in a day, so that's not usually how I work, but it can be great, really rewarding when it does work that way, you know.
Well, look, we look forward to seeing it now on the final episode of Community of Independence Season 3. Thank you very much for watching. Here's Sunken Fall with Chiselers.
This place is filled with artifacts. This place is full. Professor Record. Professor Record. Professor. So